Okay, I have a blooper reel. Hi, my name's Maria and welcome to my channel MH Books. I am going to film a response video today to a video that was up last night by Dave at Wild Reads, but because I have to do this before work, it's going to be in this bad lighting because that was the only light I can get at the moment that's natural, and it's raining outside, so it's dark and yeah, there's no light in the morning in my apartment. I get the light in the evening. So, and the Budgies is singing, which is good because one of them was sick, so at least he's talking again. And there's a washing machine in the background, so I'm sorry, but I feel obliged to get this up while I still have these thoughts in my head. So this is a response video to Dave's at Wild Reads video that went up last night about rereads, and it's not just about his video, it's about everybody who seems to have this pressure on them on YouTube never to reread, and I think he's missing out. So this is my argument as to why I think there should be more rereading going on and less reading new books. First of all, I start off, I understand the pressure. I have on those bookshelves, and the bookshelves are scattered around the apartment, over 600 books according to the book tag I filmed when I counted it for them. I have over 400 of those are books I have not read. I read about 75 books a year, so you know that's 5 or 6 years of reading without ever going to rereads. So by rereading, it means I'll never get to these books, and I could feel under this pressure. But the other 200 books in these shelves are books that I bought and kept because I wanted to reread them, or I wouldn't keep them. I would give them away to somebody, or I would give them to a charity shop, or I would trade them in to Chapter secondhand department and get new books. So this is my argument why I think there should be more rereading. And I'm going to start off with one of the more recent books I've finished. This is a strange angle to film out, but Go Went Gone, okay? Go Went Gone I read recently. Now, if I had read this in 1999, it would have been a different experience. And when I read this in the future, it's going to be a different experience again. The experience I had this time, because in about the early noughties, I used to live with somebody from East Berlin, and in about 2 or 3 years ago, I was studying German. Means that I take up things from this book that I wouldn't have brought up if I'd read it in 1999, okay? So if this had been a reread, it would have been a very different book to me today than it would have been then. And I imagine it's going to be a very, very different book in the future. Because my main argument for this video, when things are rushed, you can't really make a good argument, but my main argument really is, and it's very serious, obviously, is that a book is an experience between the reader and something that the author wrote, and the reader changes over time and you change over time, so therefore you will see every book you've ever read differently the second time you read it. Now I know you're going to remember certain bits, but that can be the good bit of it, because I'm going to give you different reasons why I'm going to read other books here. Okay, don't take it too seriously So a book that came up in Dave's video is Crudo, and he wants to reread it because he's not sure. I think if I get this wrong, he can tell me. That he thinks that he didn't get as much out of it as he would have, that he needed a little bit more knowledge or something to get out of this book. And I see where he's coming from that. For me, this is a reread because it was so based in 2017. I think it's going to be fundamentally different when you read it in 2027. It's going to be a slice of history, and I want to see how we thought about how we thought then, so that's why it's staying on my shelf. But I do agree with Dave in that I have the Ali Smith books, again, not read so much for the future. I'm thinking of reading in the future, not so much because they are set now, and that's a good reason, but again, I don't think I got everything I should have out of this book, because when I saw the reviews after I'd read it, I couldn't believe there were so many things that went completely over my head. So I'm looking forward to reading this in the future and seeing, do I see those things or don't I? You know, it's fine if I don't. I also want to read them when the full quartet is out again as a full quartet, the 4 seasons. That's another reason I like to reread. I'm not doing that one yet. This one is the book I've talked about before, Pure Pleasure Reading. I think this is a story that I shouldn't. I got rid of all this because I'd read them about 2 or 3 times. I didn't think I'd ever go back to these books. Saw the TV series, realised I'm still in love with the stories. So sometimes stories are like stories from your childhood, like fairy tales. You just want to read them again and again and again. So some books still stick on my shelves just because they're stories, they're not literature. They are good stories. I still love the characters from them. And I was even like didn't think one of the characters, Elena, wasn't adapted very well by the TV series. I think they got her wrong. They got most of the rest of them right. But when you have such strong feelings about something, you kind of go, well, this is a story I am going to want to read in the future. So I've started rebuying them. So this is why I know I am committed to rereads. Stephen King is one that anybody who's been watching my channel probably knows at this stage. Rereading Stephen King from the start. It will take 5 or 6 years probably because he writes so many. We're reading one a month. This is a book we're reading this month. It's Firestarter. I've read it twice before. The last time I read it was in 1995 when I was in Australia. These books I'm finding extremely different. This is a reread. This is what it's like to reread. These books, because we're still in the 1970s, and this might be the early 80s at this stage, are so of their time. So you get to see of their time, but you also get to see, because I'm rereading an author from the beginning, which I didn't read in the right order when I was reading them originally. You get to see how an author progresses. So this is an amazing experience. This is a reread I'm doing this year. So at least 12 of my reread books this year will come. So most of them will come from Stephen King's for the next couple of years. I'll probably get so sick of them by the end. But this is one of my reasons for rereading. Okay, not terribly serious. I thought I was gonna say in this video, oh, I don't reread thrillers. I had to rebuy this one because I'd given it away to somebody to read, and because I didn't think I'd ever read again. It's a thriller, you know the ending. But I was wondering about one part of one of the characters and how she introduced something. For a short story I was writing, and I went, I should have kept a copy. And then I came across this as a gorgeous copy, which I came across in a charity shop. So I'm on a fence now. Do I keep that kind of story or not? You know, maybe I'll get really old and and I'll forget the ending, so they'll be fun again. I don't know. Elmet. This has amazing descriptions and narratives, but as a reread, it will be. I am assuming it'll be more fun because more fun. It'll be a different experience because it will be. I won't have to worry about what happens to the characters. I know what happens to the characters. I can concentrate more on the sense of place, on whether I feel these characters are right. The boy in this book has more feminine attributes, and the young girl has more male attributes. And whether that's been portrayed right, is it realistic? It seems realistic at the time. There's a lot of stuff that you can concentrate on a reread that you can't. Well, I can't. I know I have a friend who says she can do it all. So maybe some people can, and they really shouldn't be. And if they can do it all, they shouldn't be rereading, because my opinion counts. And House of Leaves. I just stopped you there. I'm going to have cut you back a little bit because I got completely confused in House of Leaves because I'm trying to rush this. Okay, House of Leaves is a horror novel. Okay. Okay, I don't know how I've shown this, but I'll cut it out now, but you can see yourself in the reflection of the book. It's a horror novel, but it's also, according to Mark Z. Danielewski, I cannot say Polish, and I think it's a Polish last name, is it? I can't, and he says it's more of a romance. about a house. This is what happened to me last time. Dear God, it doesn't. It's a book that has 2 authors' footnotes in it. Okay, so you can follow these books. See, some of the pages have nothing. So there's footnotes. The footnotes are in 2 different fonts, and you can choose to read it in different orders. So you're reading the main text or one footnote and then the other author's footnote, and you can read loads of different things, different orders. And you see how there's bits and pieces like that in here. So depending on the way you choose it, it's going to be a different book. So fundamentally, this book was designed to be read. Bits crossed out. This book was designed to be reread and reread. So this one, if you like that kind of thing, is worthwhile buying rather than getting from the library. Oh, I have one book down here. I dropped it when I had the camera off. I was talking to myself. 7 Deaths of Evelyn Harsall also breaks the rule in that I wouldn't normally keep a crime fiction, but this one is so complicated. It's about somebody dies. So it's about solving a murder. The person who has to solve it wakes up in a different person's body, but on the morning of the same day. So the different person that was there during the crime. So I know who did it and how it happened, but there's so many interweaving parts, because if you wake up on the same day in different people's bodies, you actually meet yourself a few times, but during different points of the day. So it's quite a complex story. So it'd just be interesting to reread this, but I think this might be just a reread once time, but it's a gorgeous book. So I'm a bit reluctant to get rid of it too. Okay, very last book, The Very Last Reason. A lot of people reread. It's one of my favorite books ever. It's Ruth Ozeki's A Tale for the Time Being, tabbed from a reread. I have already read this. I've read it twice in the last 2 or 3 years. So with notes on it. I love these editions. If anybody is in Dublin, they're only selling them for $5.99 at the moment. I paid about €20 or something for this book. But they have them. If people, because obviously a lot of people didn't like the idea of the way the bounding was done. It's, yeah, the classic reading. It's a favourite. I imagine I'll keep reading. If it stops being a favourite, then I won't keep rereading it, but I'll give it to somebody else, because I'm sure somebody else will enjoy it. So that's my take on why we should be rereading. I'll be interested on other people's takes, whether they think we should. I know that Dave is going to try and increase some of his rereading next year. I probably reread out my 75 because of the Stephen King is at least 12. And probably about 20 of them have been rereads this year, but I'll tell you when I get to the end of the year how many were actually rereads. Other years it would have been probably more like 10 were rereads, so it's not like most. I'm reading most of my books all the time. So yeah, so I'm interested if you have comments. Please go to Dave's channel, and I'll link his video below, and you can tell him, and please tell me as well. So just, can you put it in both so I can see what your comments are, and if you have any responses. So meanwhile, I hope whatever you're reading, you're enjoying it, even if it's a new book and it's not a reread. Bye now. See ya.